was after reading Pablo Neruda, I'm ashamed to say for the first time last month. It's called Questions in the Garden. Do the forget-me-nots admire the sky in spring? Will the dandelions befriend the ants? How do the brambles know when a storm is coming? At what time of day do the daisies remember to flower? How do the wood doves call to the snail? And where does the spider hide when the south wind blows? What time is the garden path? Will the stones mark the hour? Who named the dawn? And why do the leaves complain? Why does the moon cry wolf as though there will be no tomorrow? I wrote this today in response to a poem by a friend of mine called Pauline Seward, who wrote about leaving home. And she remembered student digs. This was my leaving home. Leaving home was a gradual affair. No tears, no promises to keep in touch. Yes, an initial phase of packing, my father donating his old sea chest to hold the tools and books the college specified. The long drive to Bath. My mother didn't come with us, as I remember. I didn't know I was leaving home then. It was like my first day at school at 5. Desperate to leave 2 demanding siblings, get on to the next thing, I vanished into the crowd of tearful kids, dry-eyed, never looking back. Years later, my mother said she had been hurt, but not surprised. At end of term, I found I had left home. Still between worlds, I was not at home. At dinner, I used a student word. Bullshit, I proclaimed, was the problem at my alma mater. There was a nasty silence. Since then, I have left home a dozen times. Always I was ready, no regrets. As little looking back as possible. Gradually, nearing the home that I shall never leave. Two short ones. This is called Anti-Gravity. The capacity to fly a kite is inversely proportional to a man's gravity. His faith in the absurd is all that lets him hear the words of the birds cruising in the stratosphere. His kite tugs the rational tether that holds him to the earth's skin, until the string cuts wild arabesques in clouds, brands his hands with stripes of its will to freedom. Hovering on roaring winds, the kite's frivolity is an antidote to gravity. And finally, FAUX PAS. Just when you thought it was safe to admit that you never had been there nor cared much for it, just when you decided to really come clean and tell them how totally bored you had been, just when you thought they'd stopped up their ears and no one was watching and no one would hear, just then came the lull in the talk, and you said the words that made everyone wish you were dead. Thank you.